Ready, set, hut, hut!
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth.
It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night. They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, December 2nd edition. And hey, these live streams may be coming fast and frequent. Who knows how many may be coming per day, how many in a row. You know, it's 2 days in a row now. Yesterday, of course, we had videos come out. We did a live stream yesterday as well. And that's just how it's going to be with this coaching search. Pretty fluent, but I want to try and keep you guys up to date on the news as it's coming out involving the coaching search. And of course, we've had some updates today. One just came out recently from Football Scoop, so I figured may as well go live tonight before I call it a night, update you guys on what they're saying about some of the candidates. And then, of course, we've had a lot of activity involving the roster, whether it be transfer portal following this coaching search news, and then, of course, some recruits as well. We have signing day coming up on Wednesday. I'll definitely be live Wednesday morning covering the signings as they come in. So no better time than now to be sure you're subscribed here to the channel and have the notification bell clicked in case we go live at any moment here on the Country Roads webcast covering recruiting, transfer portal, all that's about to start happening. Plus, of course, it's going to be happening even twofold for West Virginia with the coaching search going on. So a lot of stuff going on here. You need to be sure you're checked in here. And if you're checked in here to this video, whether you're watching live or on a playback, be sure to hit the thumbs up. That helps a ton with the YouTube algorithm. Throw your questions in the chat there you have, or comments you got there as well. See you in there, WVU World. Appreciate you. He says top 5 coaches WVU should consider, or Wren should consider at WVU. John Summerall, of course, Tulane head coach, Glenn Schumann, the Georgia defensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, the Penn State offensive coordinator, Barry Odom, the UNLV head coach, and Rich Rod, the Jacksonville State head coach. Good list, WVU World. All 5 of those were on my 25 candidate list that I dropped yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to check that out. If not, check that out after get done with the stream here for sure. But good list there. I like all 5 of those names, and I think they're definitely candidates. Even one of the 5 there has been confirmed to potential interview courtesy of Mike Ostie over at WVSportsNow.com. So definitely a lot going on right now with the coaching search, and it's like I said, news is going to come out, and it's going to come out fast in regards to what's going on, but we'll talk about that. But as far as what's going on at WVU, you know, a lot of news came out yesterday, obviously, with the firing of Neil Brown, with then turning to who are we going to target? And that's kind of been the focus since then. But one thing that I thought was missing and surprised was missing from Wren Baker's statement about the firing of Neil Brown was naming an interim coach. And West Virginia waited till today for that to come out, but it has came out, and it is going to be offensive coordinator Chad Scott taking over as interim coach to coach West Virginia in the bowl game. And here is the official announcement from the university. We'll run through this, and then we will get into the coaching search update that Football Scoop has provided us. What Football Scoop is my favorite source to follow for coaching search news during the coaching carousel in the offseason. Always keep up with Football Scoop, and of course a little bit extra when WVU is involved in the coaching carousel cycle as well. But as far as the bowl game, Coach Chad Scott will be coaching our beloved Mountaineers in whatever bowl game we do end up in, as this was released at 11 o'clock this morning from the university. President and Director of Athletics, Ren Baker, has announced that offensive coordinator Chad Scott will serve as the interim head coach for the Mountaineers in their upcoming bowl game. And then the statement here from Ren: I want to thank Coach Scott for agreeing to lead our team in bowl preparation. He's been a strong and great leader for our program and someone who cares for our student athletes. I appreciate his willingness to step forward to make for as smooth of a transition as possible. Confidence that Coach Scott will have our team prepared and ready to play. Of course, we did discuss on a recent stream that he has been nominated for the Broyles Award this year, which is, of course, given to the nation's top assistant coach, usually an offensive or defensive coordinator. If Coach Scott been the offensive coordinator for 2 years and overseen the running backs for 6 years. Mountaineers led the Power 5 in rushing in 2023 and are currently among the top 9 in Power 4 in rushing again this year. So back-to-back years with a top 10 rushing attack. Obviously, you want to reward your running game coordinator, running backs coach there, Chad Scott. And it talks a little bit about his history there as well. So shout out to Coach Chad Scott, one of my favorite assistants on the staff and has been for a while. So was glad to see him earn that and get a chance to get a little head coaching experience under his belt, which he will probably go on to bigger and better things in the future. I think a head coaching job is in his future. So good to see him get some experience for this bowl game, and that's who will lead West Virginia in the bowl game. Other than that, the other thing I want to talk about in addition to the coaching search was just kind of the effect. Of course, you're going to have the domino effect from the coaching search, and that is decommits on the recruiting trail, players hitting the transfer portal, which the portal was set to open about a week from today anyway. I think it opens on December 9th for everyone. But, of course, as soon as West Virginia let Neil Brown go, then that automatically opens it up for the players to enter. They have a 30-day window. So West Virginia essentially, players have a week earlier to enter than anyone else now if they want to. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's talk decommits first, and then we will talk a little bit about the few players that have entered the transfer portal. Right now, it's not a lot yet. I'm sure there will be more coming for sure. That's one thing to expect. There's going to be plenty, and plenty of decommits also. The most impactful one is the one we're going to lead it off with here, and that's Brody McWhorter. He is not a commit in this upcoming class, this 2025 class that, early signing days for this coming Wednesday. He's for the next class, the next year in 2026. And West Virginia had gotten a jump start on that, getting a great quarterback who was, we were really excited about because he was one of the highest rated QB commits that West Virginia has gotten in school. When we're talking in school history, as you see, the number 9 ranked QB in the class according to Rivals, so a top 10 QB in that 2026 class. Currently a 4-star. Questionable if he may even earn a 5-star, but big fan of Neil Brown. He's put up multiple posts, kind of lamenting the loss of Neil Brown as West Virginia's head coach. Really liked him, and he has since decommitted. Who knows if the new coach that West Virginia brings in will be able to get back in the fold with him, or if he'll have other plans at QB for what will be, his first class there. But seems like Brady McWhorter for now not going to be a part of it. So that's probably the most impactful decommit. But that, of course, like I said, is for the 2026 class. But we want to really recognize the upcoming class as well, because like I said, signing day coming up on Wednesday, and this coming Wednesday morning, less than 48 hours from now, I'll be live that morning. I'm thinking of probably from about 8 to noon is what I'm going to plan on trying to do as the signings come in for West Virginia. I'll be live to cover them on signing day this coming Wednesday. But we do have a few players that will be still signing with West Virginia. I know that there are some decommits, of course, to talk about, but let's talk about the positive side of some guys that are deciding to stick around, or at least say that they are currently. One being tight end Jackson Aquarty, who will still be signing his national letter of intent. He announced on social media, which is good. Great tight end with great size in this upcoming class. And then also, I think, especially this is even bigger after we just talked about losing Brody McWhorter, the 2026 QB, is the 2025 QB commit that we do currently have committed in this class, which had previously said his recruitment was kind of back open, said he still plans to sign that national letter of intent, which it's great that these guys are signing these letters of intent still and honoring their commitment to WVU, but also the fact that West Virginia is undergoing a coaching change. I'd say that if they do sign that and they don't like who West Virginia brings in as the new coach, that they would probably be able to get out of those signings still yet in the future. So it's not necessarily locking them in, but it is a positive sign and the route that we want to be on if we are going to keep a good portion of this class together, which is, kind of remains to be seen. We'll see how it falls on signing day on Wednesday. West Virginia had, 20 plus commits in this class already. I think it was 22. We've already seen a couple decommits announced, but multiple commits coming out and announced, and they will still sign. Another one that is important because it is the highest rated commit in this 2025 class is defensive lineman Taylor Brown. And according to Skylar Callahan, he is sticking with the Mountaineers and will sign on Wednesday as well. So at least a couple of positive updates there. Of course, there are negative ones as far as decommitments. And I'm hoping to tomorrow, fingers crossed, get out a video to do a recruiting update on those that have decommitted since the coaching change before signing day on Wednesday. That's what I'm hoping to get out tomorrow evening. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow evening, and we'll talk a little bit more about the recruiting side of things. But as far as transfer portal, West Virginia has had a couple enter the transfer portal. 2 scholarship players and actually a third that's a walk-on. The 2 scholarship players that have announced they're entering are Raleigh Collins. As you see here, he announced on social media there with a nice graphic and statement. If you want to check that out, you can there on social media at _Raleigh Collins. He has announced he's entering the transfer portal. And then a defensive back as well. One of the 2 Jacksons that we have, so we'll see what happens with his brother. But Josiah Jackson has announced that he will be entering the transfer portal, has a graphic of his own with a statement as well that you can check out there on social media, but both entering the transfer portal. Nice to see Craig Edits helping out with some of the graphics there. That's pretty cool. But add Josiah Jackson with 3 N's there if you want to check out his statement as he enters the transfer portal. And then in addition to them, like I said, a walk-on did as well. And that was Bryce Biggs has entered the portal. So I'm going to catch up with some of your all's comments real quick after I take a swig of my water, and then we will get to what you guys are here for, the main portion. Just wanted to give everybody a second to get in here live with us that was going to hop in live, and we will do the coaching search update provided to us from Football Scoop. But let me take a swig of my water and catch up in the comments first. Appreciate the kind words on the list there, WVU World. Nick Saban with the dude OC from Penn State. That for Nick brings in monsters and turns it over to Kotelnicki in 2 years. That'd be a dream scenario, Eric Flowers. That would be awesome. Saban with Kotelnicki. Sign me up for that. That'd be crazy. But the positive side is it does sound like Saban is going to want to help us make this hire, although he doesn't want to get back into coaching, which I do have the clip from the Pat McAfee show of him talking about that, which I'll share here in a bit as well. But definitely a dream. James Vanoy said number 1, Rich Rod. Hey, man, high on my list as well. I don't think, I was watching Kuz's video earlier when he was talking about some of his, candidates list, which we share some of those on both of our lists. And I think that he made a good point that I agree with is that right now I don't think I necessarily have really a favorite. I could maybe come up with some, guys that I like more than others, but I don't really necessarily have a favorite currently at this point. But Rich Rod would be one of those that was, high on my list, that is one of those that I'd like more than others personally. Is that nostalgia? Because, of course, when I was growing up, it was that golden era with him, maybe. But, he's shown that he can do it in this era again at Jacksonville State. I think I waxed poetic enough about him recently. I don't want people start getting mad in here again, but nonetheless, I like that. James Vanoy. Drum Wolf says, I think some of the athletes are going to wait to see who will be the new coach before deciding. I do as well. I think that's why we haven't really seen a rush of players entering the transfer portal quite yet, because I think you're going to probably wait and see who we get. And then some people will decide, yeah, I like him. No, I don't like that move. I'm out. And of course, also the coach, when he comes in, may make some of those moves on his own. I'm not saying we're going to have a full on Dion, go on and hop in that portal moment. But I am saying it's a lot about fit. And, the new coach may say, hey, I don't think you really work for the system I'm going to try and run. We're going to try and get some different guys in here. And they could encourage some transfers as well. You never really know. Eric Flowers said, really sorry for Noah Brown. Hate that we got to this point. He was a good dude. Let's see how many follow him to a smaller school. Yeah, I think that UMass job would be a good fit for him. I don't know if he'll end up there, but I wouldn't mind to see it for him. I think he could work out there. And it is one of the sad things with the profession that he's in, that it does have to go this way, for him and his family. I saw Jed Drenning put up a really nice post, talking about him, not being a good man, a great man. And I think that's the one thing that's been consistent that everyone has said, is that he is a good man. Just wasn't winning football games, and unfortunately that's what matters in the profession that he's in. But glad that he is such a good person, and that is one thing that he'll always have, no matter what job he goes to, no matter if he ever gets fired from another job or what. I guarantee that everyone will still say the same things, because it's the same things that the people from Troy said when he came here, and those proved to be true for us even now. Those of us that wanted him to leave because the success wasn't happening there on the field still would agree that he's a good man for sure. Um, let's see. I see Silas in here. What's going on, Silas? Oh man, Silas, how dare you disappoint me like this? The more I thought about it, Jimbo is his top pick. But I do okay. You saved it right there. You brought yourself back around because you did say you're a Rod fan. I don't know. I just can't get on with the Jimbo thing. It's just a hard pass for me, I think, on Jimbo. But, maybe I could be convinced with it. And I also think I'm at the point now that I'm going to support whatever the new area is, obviously, even if it's not a hire that I prefer. And as I mentioned previously, I think the Neil Brown hire taught me that this thing definitely isn't foolproof, because you could have asked anyone at that time that was a home run hire, couldn't miss hire, was going to have great success. And then here we are 6 years later. So I think it's a crapshoot. And no matter how I feel about it, because Neil Brown was the guy that I wanted from the candidates named back then as well. So I was wrong then. Maybe I'll be wrong again. If it does end up being Jimbo, I'll learn to like it. But man, I definitely prefer Rich Rod out of those two for sure. But all right. Appreciate you guys. If you guys got any other questions, comments, throw them in there. I'll try and touch up with you guys in the chat one more time. But I want to talk about this coaching search update here from Football Scoop that they came out with just a couple hours or so ago, as they've updated the search here. And let's get to that. I'll share the screen here with you guys. And if you guys don't, be sure you can follow Football Scoop. Pretty much daily they put out, it's called The Scoop here. And every day they update it with info on the coaching carousel. And it's pretty cool. It does it by school. And of course, you see West Virginia pop up on there. You can get the latest update each day if you go to footballscoop.com. They're what I love to follow in the offseason when coaching carousel comes around. I love to follow the coaching carousel. It's one of my favorite things. And so when West Virginia is involved in a coaching search, it's one of my favorite times and one of the most fun times to cover the team, especially as few and far between as they are for WVU. But ongoing right now, let's talk about it here, of course, from Football Scoop. I won't read through the whole article. Let's just get to a little bit of their thoughts on some of the candidates. And the names that they mentioned are some of the ones that you would expect, some of the ones that have been shared in lists from us, around here, social media creators and West Virginia media people alike. And here's the latest from Football Scoop. The biggest name is the biggest unknown, Jimbo Fisher. In his own words, Florida State's former national championship winning head coach said earlier this fall he does desire to be a head coach again. This after Texas A&M choosing to pay his $75 million buyout to depart its program. Clarksburg, West Virginia native, whose collegiate playing career traces Salem College in the state. For several weeks, several sources have continued to share with Football Scoop that Fisher does have an interest in the top job at his native state's flagship school. His buyout money from A&M fully guaranteed, no offset. Fisher could be free to potentially take the job while still collecting the full $75 million from the Aggies, which is crazy that it works out that way, because most contracts are not like that. Most contracts, when you're getting a buyout from another school, if you accept a job somewhere else, those payments end. So Texas A&M really messed up with that contract, just to be honest with you. But he did elite work at FSU before it faded late, but he never advanced the Aggies to the SEC championship or the CFP. And then, of course, we got to talk about Rich Rod. Someone mentioned there in the chat, the top guy for them. Like I said, one of my favorites as well. This is their thoughts on the Rich Rod and kind of their sources, what they're saying about Rich Rod, which I think some interesting stuff came out of. I shared this on social media, and the quote that I shared is from this part of the article here as we get into it. Rich Rod posted a 22-3 mark in his final two seasons atop the Mountaineers in 05 and 06 before departing for the top job at Michigan. The move apparently still leaves a few feathers ruffled around Morgantown, as I'm sure a lot of the fan base knows, and maybe you're one of those that feathers are getting ruffled right now, even us talking about it. But Rich Rod is a ball coach, and his teams win. His work now at Jacksonville State continues to gain notice and respect from his peers. He's led Jacksonville State to 26 wins in his 3 seasons at the helm of the Gamecocks, including the ASUN Championship in his first season, a New Orleans Bowl win in year 2, and his squad is playing in the CUSA Championship against Western Kentucky Friday night, which this is no small feat, guys, because Jacksonville State obviously was not successful when he came there, and they were FCS when he came there. He guided them to FBS, led them to a bowl game last season, their first year at Division I at the FBS level, and that's the first time anyone has ever led a program to a bowl game in their first season in Division I, the first season in FBS, and then now in his third year there, their second year ever in FBS and Division I. He hasn't played for a conference championship, has the conference player of the year, has a 1,500-yard rusher at running back, a 1,000-yard rusher at quarterback, who also threw for over 2,000 yards. But here's the interesting part, and this is the part that I shared here on social media because it's kind of what I was kind of expecting. But this is the first time I think we've had it officially, confirmed in an outspoken way from, a reliable source. Additionally, multiple sources tell Football Scoop's Scott Rousel and John Bryce that beloved former Mountaineer and NFL star Pat McAfee, a Pennsylvania native who committed to Rich Rod and played for him his first 2 seasons at West Virginia before the Michigan opening, has made clear to West Virginia supporters that he would strongly favor a return of Rodriguez to lead the Mountaineers. Strongly favor a return of Rodriguez. Those are the 2 top names where the search is expected to take its origination before moving elsewhere. So even according to Football Scoop, who a lot of times I've seen, break news before, anyone else. That's where I learned of the Dana Holgerson hire before anywhere else was on Football Scoop. A lot of the coaching staff and assistant moves for West Virginia in recent years. Football Scoop, very reliable, especially when it comes to coaching carousel news. And they say the top 2 names where the search is starting before it branches out are Jimbo and Rich Rod. So that's, kind of the biggest portion of the news there, but they do update some of the other candidates here. And they were all of these that they name, I think, save for a couple, were mentioned in my candidates video as well. Western Kentucky head coach Tyson Helton, deeply in the mix at East Carolina last month, but then they, of course, hired their interim head coach. Helton was a finalist 2 years ago for the Purdue job. He's going to be involved in that search as Purdue has fired Ryan Walters and is looking for head coach as well. Strong offensive-minded coach with power conference experience at USC and Tennessee. And then, of course, they talk about Barry Odom a little bit here, as UNLV head coach Barry Odom and Ren Baker, both Oklahoma natives, worked together at Memphis and Missouri. So obviously a lever of comfort there. Work Odom has done at UNLV puts him near the top of many lists around the country. And then here's another name that wasn't on my list, but just missed the cut, as I had a good 30, 35, 40 names maybe jotted down. I ended up having to cut down to 15. But an Oklahoman is Ohio head coach Tim Albin, who might wind up getting a call. Albin has been able to do it. Ohio has caught the eye of many athletic directors. Ohio plays Saturday for the MAC championship. He's on several other lists across the country. And then, although he seems to be trending toward the top spot at Southern Miss, barring something unforeseen, which is another reason that he wasn't on my list, because I think that it seems like he maybe end up taking this Southern Miss head coaching job. But that's Marshall's head coach, Charles Huff. Football Scoop states he deserves a strong look, done solid work across his 4 years at Marshall, culminating in the program's first ever conference title appearance this week. Huff's resume also includes a 2022 road win at a top 10 ranked Notre Dame, and then also on the road at VT. The Thundering Herd preparing for a 4th bowl trip in 4 seasons with Charles Huff. And then Jamie Chadwell, who I mentioned in my candidates video, probably my favorite of the coaches without the power experience. He's also expected to be in the mix if the search moves beyond Jimbo Fisher and Rich Rodriguez. Chadwell's done excellent work at both the FCS and FBS level, parlaying his Coastal Carolina success into the opportunity to replace Hugh Freeze at Liberty 2 years ago. The Flames stepped back this year after double-digit wins last year, but still remained viable under Jamie Chadwell. So there you see some of the names. Tim Albin at Ohio, Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, Charles Huff from Marshall, Barry Odom at UNLV. So most of these, we've heard before, Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky. But the top 2 candidates, according to Football Scoop, at least at this time, or at least where they say the search is going to start, and then, maybe look elsewhere. Do they look elsewhere to see if there's anything better and then come back to one of those 2 options? That's certainly a possibility, but it seems like those are the first 2 calls that are being made are to Rich Rod and Jimbo Fisher, according to Football Scoop. So wanted to share that big update there from them. And like I said, guys, as updates come out, I will go live as much as I possibly can when these updates do come out involving this coaching search, and we'll continue to cover it here on the CRW. So really appreciate you guys for continuing to follow us here. If you don't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, as we'll cover this, changes in the recruiting, changes in the transfer portal. And if you are watching this, whether live or on a playback, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Helps a ton with that YouTube algorithm, helps us get pushed out to more Mountaineer football fans, which helps us grow the CRW community here. And if you want to be an extra part of that CRW community, you can by becoming a channel member. Help support us monthly for as low as $1.99 a month. You'll get badges beside your name. You'll get custom emojis. You'll get player grades. You'll get snap counts. You'll get depth chart projections. And then at the next level, of course, you can get film reviews, game rewatches. So we'd really appreciate you supporting us that way monthly if you can. But if you can't, the fast, easy, free way is just by liking and subscribing here to the channel. But that's what I had as far as coaching names. Other names that weren't on my list or just missed the cut on my list that have popped up on others. I did want to name some of those as well, but of course the major update there is coming from Football Scoop, of course. But some names that were on other lists that weren't necessarily on mine and weren't in that list. Jake Dickert at Washington State's name has popped up on a couple of lists there as far as hot boards. Alex Golish just missed out on my list. He was one that I crossed off towards the end. Current head coach of South Florida. Young guy there, only 40 years old. And even younger guys, G.J. Kinney, the current coach of Texas State, had success as the coach of Incarnate Word prior to that, where Cam Ward came from. Has a 27-12 record as a head coach, only 36 years old. Has success at Texas State this year, who is not traditionally a winning program. So that's another name that's being thrown into the mix there as well. But definitely, those were a couple more that I hadn't mentioned previously that I wanted to throw in there, I think, that deserved mentioned. And then some coordinators, Pete Golding, defensive coordinator there at Ole Miss. And then you also have Matt Ince, a defensive coordinator there at North Dakota State, of course, as well. So some coordinator names that hadn't been previously mentioned. And see who else they have on their list here. Jay Hill. I think it's BYU or Utah. That's Utah, I believe, with Kyle Whittingham. And then Kane Womack over at Alabama, another coordinator as well. But the biggest update, I think, there is from Football Scoop, but those are some other names, keep in mind. You got 20 to 30 names, that you got to keep in mind now, I think. But Football Scoop with a pretty narrow list there. And I think it's kind of telling that and maybe even a bit surprising that the top two candidates that they think West Virginia will go after first are the two big names we've been hearing all along, Jimbo and Rich Rod, and gave us a little bit of information on each. And maybe it's, a major thing that Pat McAfee does support a Rich Rod return. I think that, I don't know how much influence he's going to have in the search. I'm not saying he's going to make the hire or anything, but I do think he has a lot of public pull. And Ren Baker probably values his opinion at least a little bit. So, that may be something there, a check mark in Rich Rod's corner over Jimbo slightly, if you're talking about those two guys. But there's the update from Football Scoop. And speaking of Pat McAfee, I wanted to share this clip from his show. I think Jonathan Martin here. Yeah, Jonathan K. Martin. Check him out on the Gold Blue Breakdown with Coos. They do a great job, and he has his own show as well. I think it's the Jonathan Martin podcast, if I'm not mistaken. He may have changed it. It's on my Martin mind now, I think. But nonetheless, he does a great job. I'm sure a lot of you guys follow him on social media. But he shared this clip from the Pat McAfee show. Let me make sure I'm sharing the audio of it for you guys so you guys can hear it. But this is Pat McAfee talking a little bit about, some of the things that we've discussed a little bit throughout this stream about how, he talked to Coach Saban. Coach Saban wants to help in the search, but also how WVU is, a hot commodity. A lot of people are calling him wanting this job. So here is Pat McAfee talking a little bit about that. It's about 2 minutes and some change. While it plays, I'm going to go refill my water real quick, and then I'll be right back with you guys. But here's Pat McAfee talking a little bit about the WVU coaching search.
What's WVU playing? You know?
We got a bowl game. Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Which one? Are they playing in the poop bowl or?
No, I don't think we're playing.
Was there news out
in the dump bowl?
The toilet bowl?
UPS, what can Brown do for you bowl?
Yeah.
Well,
that's the one.
Brown's out of town, though.
Oh, no.
Excuse
but
me?
we would like to appreciate Neil Brown for his service.
The Brown out?
Neil Brown's a good guy. This is a good guy. I think he operated in a super good guy fashion. Obviously, a lot of class. 6 years, team seemingly got stagnant or lesser than. So in a P4 program like the Big 12 that gets an automatic bid seemingly into the college football playoff, and it's as wide open as it is, like, you got to make this move. I think Ren Baker knew he had to make this move. Ren Baker decides to move on after the ass beating from Texas Tech, the drumming that happened on Saturday. Now there's a coaching search taking place, and I'll tell you, it was a wild day yesterday, AJ. A lot of people want that job. A lot of people
It's
want
a good gig, like for real. They got you working the phone?
Well, they don't got me working the phones. Everybody that wants the job calling me that I've ever met or are friends with saying, would love if you supported me in my bid to become this head coach of this thing. So then obviously I've also donated to the collective. So I guess I deserve a what's up, what's going on. So I've gotten a chance, with chat with Ren Baker yesterday a little bit. I have faith in him. I do. He got it right with the basketball team.
Yeah.
He got it right with the basketball
They're
coach.
great.
There's a lot of options, though, that are trying to get this gig. And those are just the people that I talked to yesterday, let alone the amount of people that I don't know that are trying to get that job. It's like with the way the Big 12 is set up, with the way it's constructed, and it's going to sound very narcissistic, but with like a West Virginia presence now, pretty good in the sport and sports media as a whole. With how popular the brand is, good logo.
Yeah,
Great.
Good logo.
great logo.
Colors.
Only team in the sport or in the state. Like obviously Marshall exists. Shout out to Marshall, Thundering Herd. That's a good rivalry between that. But those are all Mountaineers over there. That is the pro team of the state. It's like there's a lot of really good opportunity for people over there, and there's a chance some real special shit takes place if any of the conversation.
Are you gonna publicly endorse a candidate for the job eventually?
I mean, maybe we'll see.
I can't believe Saban and Belichick called you yesterday to endorsement for that job.
Coach
And
Saban,
Braves.
And Braves,
I saw a lot of people tweeting after my tweet. We're like, Coach Saban's coming back to save us.
Coming home. He's coming home.
I think Coach Saban's having a good time. I think Coach Saban is enjoying college game day. I don't think he's getting back into coaching. I have asked him 1,000 times if he's coming to coach West Virginia. He said no, but I do believe he is interested in helping West Virginia, which is, I think, very good news in this entire conversation. But
All right, so kind of a bit of a good news, bad news situation, right? Like, I got good news and I got bad news. It's like, well, what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is Coach Saban, we tried. He doesn't want to get back into coaching. He's not coming to get us. Well, what's the good news? The good news is Coach Saban wants to help us, make the hire, wants to, advise us, or maybe he wants to have some type of role within the program once the hire is made even. Who knows what to say that exact help that Coach Saban wants to provide. But the fact that he does want to help, I think, is still a big thing, even though he doesn't want to coach with us. But then I also think it was well positive there from that clip is the fact that a lot of people are wanting this job. And I think, it's a good thing that there is still a market here, for West Virginia as far as coaches to reach out to. And despite the fact that recently we haven't been as successful as we were in the early 2000s and prior to that under Don Nehlen as well, that people still know how good of a job that this can be and how good of a program West Virginia is, especially with recent upgrades to facilities that Ren Baker and company have done there at the university. It's a really good job, and glad to see that people still recognize that around the country as they have reached out to Pat McAfee, according to him there. So that's a positive for us right there as well, I think. But I'm going to catch up with some comments. I only have one more little update I want to share with you guys, and I'll do that momentarily. But let me catch up with some of y'all's comments before I do that. Appreciate you guys tuning in here. Won't keep you guys too much later. I got to work in the morning. I know a lot of you guys probably do as well. But, if any news comes out tomorrow, maybe tomorrow evening, we'll be back here live again talking some more and doing another update. Like I said, I'll try and keep you guys updated on everything going on throughout this. And I'll be live again for sure Wednesday morning covering signing day as well. Brian Brandstetter, I truly believe Glenn Schumann would be the best for the present and the future. That's a good point, because I think that's one thing that you got to look into is longevity. And I think, with Glenn Schumann, you might have a little bit of that because of his age, but also you might have an issue, and I think that's one thing that people look at as a downside to hiring someone negative that's up and coming is that they may not stay long. You hire Glenn Schumann, you're his first head coaching job, and then, you have success for a few years and he moves on. But my counterpoint to that is that's not necessarily a bad thing, really, especially with as limited success as we've had recently in the Big 12, in our Big 12 era. If someone is moving on after a couple of years or 2 or 3 years here at WVU, then that probably means we did something pretty good. We probably made a Big 12 championship appearance or something like that. So I would take that in exchange, for them only being here 2 or 3 years. And if that's what's going to happen with Glenn Schumann, I'm cool with that. And if we're talking about the Saban connection right there with Pat McAfee and him trying to help us out, that's one guy you got to look at that probably would be someone that Saban would vouch for. He, was at Alabama when they won, championships there, as a grad assistant, then as an assistant. And then, of course, Kirby Smart thought so highly of him that he was, one of the first hires that Kirby Smart made when he went to Georgia, and he was co-defense coordinator with Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning leaves and takes over at Oregon. And so obviously you see what one defensive coordinator from Georgia already did going to Oregon and what they're looking like now. It definitely makes you excited about what the prospects could be of hiring a Glenn Schumann if you could have similar success as well as he took over that defensive coordinator role after Dan Lanning. So, yeah, we could do a lot worse. Glenn Schumann, I talked about in my candidate video, I'm a little bit, I think, sour on coordinators and group of 5 coaches, coaches without power conference experience, just because of our last 2 coaches being Neil Brown from the group of 5 and then Dana Holgorsen being a coordinator with no head coaching experience prior. That scares me a little bit, but out of the coordinators, he would be my favorite from the defensive coordinators. And then from the offensive side, I think you got to look at Kotelnicki is probably my favorite there. So those are probably my two favorites from the coordinator pool of candidates. There is probably Glenn Schumann and Andy Kotelnicki. So yeah, Glenn Schumann, not a bad name. Ryan Brandstetter, good comment. Appreciate you hopping in with that there for sure. Let's see here. I saw someone else had a comment that I liked a second ago. I don't know if I could find it again or not. Was it Drumwolf? I think may have made it in there. I can't find it now, but whoever it was, someone in the chat here, y'all been having some great participation in the chat, which I appreciate because I can't find it now. But someone had said something about Rich Rod. One thing to keep in mind with him as well is that he has played a lot of the Pac-12 schools, haven't been in that conference. And then, of course, a lot of those are now in the Big 12, which is a great point, including Arizona, who he was, the coach at. And he also, while he was in that Pac-12 conference against some of those schools that he would be facing here in the Big 12, he won that Pac-12 division, the South Division in the Pac-12. And he was the conference coach of the year in that Pac-12 as well. So definitely that was a good point as well, whoever made it. I think it was Drumwolf, if I remember correctly, but I can't find the comment now for some reason. Yeah, it was you. There it is. I find it, of course, after I'm talking about it. It was Drumwolf. Good shout out to you, Drumwolf. Good comment there. Now I'm going to try and find my place again as to where we're in chat. I want to catch up with you guys really quickly. If you guys got any questions or comments, throw them in there. I'm going to catch up on these. Then I want to share one more piece of news before we wrap up. But that's in regards to something that we know for sure is coming tomorrow. Curtis D316 says he believes it's going to be Jimbo Fisher, and Ren Baker is just doing his due diligence. He's definitely seems like one of the candidates that they're looking at least initially, according to that Football Scoop report. But also, that Football Scoop report makes me believe it's more of a lean towards Rich Rod over Jimbo, which makes me personally happy. I prefer Rich Rod to Jimbo myself. I know a lot of people feel the other way around. It's a bit 50-50 on those two, but hopefully, if you're in either camp, you can be warm to the higher if it is the other one, for sure. But Ren Baker's definitely going to do his due diligence regardless. I think he's going to conduct many interviews with a lot of these candidates, even if those are the two guys he eventually comes back to. Like that Football Scoop article said, that's probably where the search is going to start and then branch out from there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't come back to those two if those are still the two guys they feel the strongest about. Because I think when you look at all the candidates involved, the experience that those two guys possess and the winning that they've shown at this level, especially in Rodriguez's case, at this very university. And then, of course, Jimbo doing it at the power conference level, those resumes are pretty much unmatched by most of the other candidates on the list. That's one thing that they have going for them. Of course, the thing that goes against them is the age, that aspect as well. But, you can coach football for a long time, really. I mean, you look at some guys that have done it into their 70s, 80s and beyond. So you never know what could happen there. But let's see. It's not okay off Tom Brady. Hey, we're already talking about targeting one analyst, right? ESPN analyst and Dan Mullen. Throw Tom Brady's name in the mix, but that's funny. It's not okay off. I like that. Let's see. Rich Rod took over for Dion. Rich Rod come back as Jace fan because you want childhood dream not to correct me forward left. AT-Ball, I understand that opinion. A lot of people feel that way, but Rich Rod didn't take over for Dion. It's actually two different programs. Dion was at Jackson State, and Rich Rod is at Jacksonville State. I know, kind of confusing there. But appreciate your comment nonetheless, man. Jimbo won a title in 2013 with the Knowles, and was under the greatest coach, in my opinion, for years. Yeah, he did get to, the tutelage of Bobby Bowden. That's definitely a plus. But, that title was 11 years ago is the bad thing. And in the more recent era, at Texas A&M, what scares me about Jimbo, and I want to dive too far down this hole, but he just at Texas A&M had all the resources in the world, all the money in the world, top recruiting class every year, at least top 10, top 5, most years he was there. So he had more and he did less. And then here at West Virginia, you're going to have less and have to do more. So that worries me about the prospects of him being able to do that. Plus, that he hasn't really fully, he was in it a little bit there at the tail end of his career there at Texas A&M in the NIL and transfer portal era. But the bad part about that is the tail end of his career, last couple of years there were the worst part of his career. And so maybe he doesn't thrive well in the transfer portal and NIL era. We don't really know that for sure yet, but we do know Rich Rod can. We're seeing him do it at Jacksonville State. Yes, I know it's a lower level, but he's still doing it in this culture, in this climate of college football. Jimbo, I could be proven wrong, but I also think that Rich Rod's also proven that his offense works well this day and age still yet, the way that he's running it, whereas Jimbo's offense had shown to be antiquated in his final days there at Texas A&M. If you're going with Jimbo, you're going to have to sell me on him not calling the plays anymore, him being willing to bring in a younger offensive coordinator that's going to really run a system that can work in today's game, I think. So, I understand, but that national championship, those rings do speak volumes, and they speak volumes in recruiting as well, going into the living room of kids and stuff like that as well, for sure. And yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at with it too. Drum Wolf. I know a lot of people that are rubbed wrong, and their feathers are ruffled, as Football Scoop put it in their article about Rich Rod. That all goes away if he comes here and starts winning, for sure. And same goes the other way around for those that aren't fans of Jimbo, kind of like myself. If he comes here and starts winning, it would be the same case. Let's see what else we got here. What I would do if I was Ren, it's not okay golf. Sell building the dream team and we're going to the championship next year. Start selling the story, get believers, and then make it happen. Hey, there you go. Quick turnarounds are possible in today's day and age, more so than ever. I think that's what excites you right now. I know back in 2018 when Neil took over 2019, following that 2018 season when Neil took over for Dana, the cupboard was left pretty bare, and it took us a while, and we knew it was going to take a while. They knew it was going to take a while, hence the Trust to Climb moniker, but, never really got there. There was points where it looked like it was coming, but they could never really fully turn that corner. But I think now, even if the cupboard is left bare again, which it may be, there may be a lot of transfers, at least now you have this era where it's shown that you can, fully turn around a roster super quick. Colorado doing it in a couple years, Signetti doing it in year one at Indiana. BYU doing it in a couple years. Their second year in the Big 12 having a good year. Arizona State under Kenny Dillingham. You can go down the line and keep naming people that have done it in a year or two in today's day and age. So I think that's the good side of this is no matter what happens to West Virginia roster-wise, you can quickly replace that and have a quick turnaround. And, if you make the right hire, you can be winning fast within a year or two, which is something that may be a silver lining for us, hopefully. Roland Tharl says, what's all the cryptic hints that Pat McAfee has given out? I think, that he's really just excited about this coaching search. Got a lot of people reaching out to him, and obviously he doesn't want to name every name. So I think maybe that's why he's being a bit cryptic. But Football Scoop, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the earlier portion of the stream. If not, go back and check it out after we wrap up here shortly, Roland Throttle. But according to Football Scoop, he strongly supports Rich Rod, and has made it clear to West Virginia supporters that he supports Rich Rod and is kind of pushing for him. And seems like that Rich Rod is going to be one of those top candidates as well. So, but yeah, definitely seems like Pat wants Rich. But I've also heard that Pat's going to be, fully in support of Ren's decision regardless, and is going to be happy as long as whoever it is that comes here wins football games. He just wants the university to be successful again more than anything. Chris Mitchell said it might come down to how much dollars McAfee and Kendrick are willing to throw down for Rich Rod, which another great point, Chris Mitchell. Thanks for pointing that out. Is Ken Kendrick is a big Rich Rod supporter as well, arguably our top donor. And if they are, that's going to speak volumes as well. Glenn Schumann has the potential to be the next Steve Sarkisian, Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, or I'd throw Dan Lanning in there as well. Ryan Brandsetter. Yeah, he's got a high ceiling for sure. Also, I don't have the clip here, but if you guys haven't seen it, Pac-Man Jones, let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Because Pac-Man Jones also was trying to talk about Rich Rod to get him to come to Morgantown as well. I think he had him on his podcast or show one, and was talking about his upcoming conference championship game appearance, of course, this weekend against Western Kentucky. Let's see if I can find this now. Where is it? I know he just posted a little bit ago, I thought. Am I crazy? No, there it is. Okay. let me share this video, and then I want to share one more update with you guys. You guys got any other questions, throw me in there. I'll try and catch up real quick one more time before we wrap up. But that made me think of this.
Close your eyes and visualize it for 1 second, Coach. Country road, take me home to a place I belong. I'm just saying, me and the boys are rooting for you. We help you win this game right here, and then we help you pack your shit up as fast as possible, and we can get you back to Morgantown. Coach, man, good luck this week. I appreciate you for coming out here, share a couple minutes.
So pretty good there, and I think it's safe to say that Pac-Man Jones as well is in full support of the Rich Rod return there after hearing those comments there. So you got Pat McAfee coming out, of course, according to Football Scoop, in full support of the Rich Rod return, and then you get Pac-Man Jones there as well. So I had to share that too, for sure. Yeah, thank you, Nick Saban. Is a good point, Drum Wolf. Glad to see that he's getting involved and wants to help out our program here for sure. For sure. Let's see. Curtis D, I said, I don't see Rinbaker going the G5 route or a guy without head coaching experience. He still thinks it's going to, Curtis D says it's going to be Jimbo Fisher. I think that he really would prefer head coaching experience and maybe power experience. I think that's why you keep hearing Jimbo and Rich Rod as the top names. And then you throw in a guy like a Dan Mullen as well, because he has that experience. But I agree. I think if we, end up going the G5 route, it's probably because, Rinbaker didn't like some of the things he heard in the interviews with Jimbo or Rich Rod, or we couldn't make it work with them. Because I do believe that Rinbaker probably prefers power conference coaching experience, or at least head coaching experience. I know there are some coordinator candidates. We've talked highly of Glenn Schumann. We've talked highly of Andy Kotelnicki. And I think both those guys have really bright futures. But Rin, needs this hire to be, something that works 100%. So I think if he can, he would probably like to avoid hiring someone that hasn't been a head coach before and is having to learn on the job a little bit, if he can avoid it. Just my personal opinion. Ears Link, hey, haven't seen you in a long time, man. Appreciate you. Good to see from you. Appreciate the kind words, man. Appreciate that a lot. Let's see. What else we got here? DJ DeCulo, does it help the case for Rich Rod's return if he wins conference title this week? Can't hurt. Can't hurt for sure if he has that on his resume to go with, of course, getting them to a bowl game, their first win ever, their first year ever at this level, first coach ever to do that. Of course, obviously the success he had here previously, plus a Pac-12 championship, that wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt as well to add that to the resume. I thought I saw a funny comment. Someone said if history holds true and repeats itself, if Rich Rod loses this week, that means he's coming to West Virginia. That would make me laugh. I couldn't help but laugh at that one. Probably laughing at my own pain a little bit, but appreciate the kind words there as well, Drumwa, for sure. We haven't seen Jimbo to school that doesn't have dump trucks. Shoot, if I could talk correctly. Damn, get it out, Jordan. But we haven't seen Jimbo at a school that doesn't have dump trucks of cash to pitch at the program, and that way he's sort of unproven. Indeed, which is one of the things that kind of scares me a little bit, because if you can't, win it with a school that has that dump truck of cash, how do I has it instill confidence in me that you'll be able to do it at a place like WVU? Where you have to do a little bit more with less, and we all know that. Let's see. I think he means Jimbo worked under Saban for 4 to 5 seasons. Indeed, yeah, that's a good point as well. Jimbo does have ties to Saban too. So there's a couple of guys there that Nick Saban would know, and I'm sure Nick Saban knows Rich Rod as well, but he haven't worked with Jimbo Fisher and Glenn Schumann. What do you think of Garrett Riley or Brian Hartline at WV ties with 2 up-and-coming coaches? Like them both. Think that they both have bright futures. Wouldn't be a bad move, but kind of goes back to what I said about just trying to probably avoid someone that doesn't have head coaching experience. But Garrett Riley, super hot coordinator name. Like him a lot. Probably my second favorite offensive coordinator candidate behind Kotelnicki. And then Brian Hartline, I think, is underrated as well. Still at Ohio State, I think, right? Let's see. Any other questions here? I couldn't agree with this more. Rich Rod has done more with less, and Jimbo has done less with more. James Vanoy. That's my opinion as well. Let's see. What else we got here? Hey, what's going on? Dustin DT Reed says he split between Rich Rod and Jimbo if it came down to those two. I think there's some people that do feel that way, that they're kind of split between the two, which I understand, and that's a good problem to have, I guess. It's better than being in the camp that me and some others are in, where you're firmly like prefer one over the other, because then you won't be as upset if it's not the guy that you prefer, if the move happens to be one of those two. But I understand that for sure. Appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, man. Hey, indeed. Thank you, stranger, with a great point there. Don't forget to upvote. Yeah, guys, just take a second if you're in here live. Exit out of the chat. Take your thumb over. Hit that little thumbs up button. Really helps get this video pushed out to more Mountaineer football fans, and they can find the channel and get this WVU football news themselves as well, which we're always trying to grow the CRW community here, and that helps us a ton. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and become a part of it if you haven't already. Indeed. If you're watching that on playback, you can hit that thumbs up button and still help us out that way as well. Let's see what else we got here. Zach, have they set a timeline on when they would like to have a coach? They haven't officially set a timeline yet. And Clever with a similar question: how long do you think until a decision is made? I definitely think it'll be before Christmas. I think you're looking at within 2 weeks, personally, and maybe sooner. But in addition to that, we'll probably know a little bit more about that tomorrow, because this is the final little update I wanted to share with you guys. And then we will wrap up here. Like I said, I know some people want to get in bed, got to work tomorrow, myself included. But the final update here, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about the timeline and his process tomorrow, because Ren Baker will be meeting with the media tomorrow, Tuesday, December 3rd at 1 p.m. to discuss the search for a new football coach. After that, it's expected that Baker, in line with past procedures, will quote unquote go dark until a new coach is named. So after tomorrow, probably won't hear from Ren Baker until we know who we're going to hire. And appreciate Blue Gold News for that tweet there, that X post, whatever that you want to call it nowadays. But Ren Baker will be having a press conference tomorrow at 1. So we'll probably know a little bit more information tomorrow. So that probably means there's a decent chance that tomorrow evening I will do another live stream again, if he shares anything of significant, or if any other news comes out here in regards to this coaching search. But I think, in my opinion, before Christmas at the latest, but I think you're looking at probably a 2-week time frame. I'm going to say, so probably by December 15th, 16th, we should probably hear stuff start to leak out. I think could be sooner, but that's kind of when I'm thinking. You've got to have time to conduct interviews and such. But the thing that could throw a wrench into it is potentially, guys if you're going after anybody in the CFP, anybody with a significant bowl game, we'll see what happens. But if you're looking at Rich Rod or Jimbo, then maybe it doesn't take as long. Especially if you're looking at like a Jimbo, Dan Mullen, those guys that are currently quote unquote free agents, you could probably do it as soon as you want it. So maybe the length of how long this time takes to make this decision kind of is telling of who they're ending up going after as well. But definitely, I think that we will know something sooner rather than later. By the next 2-3 weeks, we'll probably know who's coaching the Mountaineers in 2025, which is good to know. We got signing day coming up. We got the transfer portal opening. The sooner we can get this done, the better for the program. But hopefully Ren's going to do his due diligence and still make a good decision for sure. If Rich Rod comes back, maybe he'll bring back the glossy helmets. WFan23 says, hey, we can only hope, right? We'd love to see those glossy helmets return for sure. I think that's one thing unanimous throughout the fan base, as It's Not Okay Golf says, glossy blue helmets. Hey, good stuff. Hey, and that's a good point there, Drumwolf. If we could have the gold as well in the glossy. We've never had the glossy gold helmets. We've only had the matte gold. So I won't go too far down the uniform hole. You guys know I can chat about uniforms for a while, but I've really enjoyed chatting with you guys tonight. I appreciate you guys turning out. Didn't know how good of a turnout we'd have late this evening, but you guys have turned out in droves. Been 80 plus of you at times here throughout the live stream, and can't thank you guys enough for tuning out for these, and just continue to tune in with us here at the Country Roads webcast. Like I said, make sure you don't only have that subscribe button clicked, but you have that notification bell turned on as well, and you'll know when we go live, because as updates come out, we'll continue to go live here, and I want to continue to chat with you guys with it here. If you didn't get a chance to tune in live, you're watching a playback, throw your thoughts or questions in the comments. I'll try and respond there in text form. Like I said, we'll continue to cover this coaching search. We'll be live on Wednesday morning to cover signing days. We continue to cover recruiting here as well, and transfer portal news here on the Country Roads webcast. Going to be an eventful offseason, an eventful lead up to the bowl game. Just a refresher on the news we covered here. Chad Scott, interim coach for the bowl game. Couple of players hit the transfer portal, and Josiah Jackson and Raleigh Collins. a decommit in Brody McCorder from the 2026 class, but some 2025 commits that still say they're signing on the dotted line on Wednesday. And then Football Scoop with a big update kind of confirming that Jimbo and Rich Rod are at least the initial 2 targets where the search is going to start, and that Pat McAfee fully endorsing Rich Rod and behind him turn for him to WVU, as well as some of the other names that we previously have mentioned still are probably going to be involved in the search. And if you want to know some of those, you can go back to the beginning of this video or just check out my 25 candidate list. Most of those were on those. If you haven't checked out the video here on the channel, be sure and do that. And like I said, be sure to stick with us. We'll continue to cover the coaching search here on the CRW. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Like I said, hit that like button before you head out. Really helps us a lot. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more news here as W football moves through what's going to be an eventful offseason and an eventful lead up to the bowl game. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great night. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.